whether is the integration important? This is where the money lies. If you have a business process that runs through various systems, it is super important. A real integration is successful when everybody is not realizing that it is an integration.
One of the ways to definitely fail this is not to plan this.
Get your plaster. You
Yeah.
will run against the wall. You will get bloody noses.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Petra.
I'm Michał.
My name is Michał Krawczyk, and welcome to another episode of Navigating SAP API Testing, the show where we show how and why SAP organizations can test integrations, which obviously are the backbone of digital transformations. But today we've got a really exciting episode for you because we're joined by Petra Kloess, who is not only a senior director at SAP, but also an SAP press author. And today we will try to share her large experience in the world of SAP to tell us mostly more from a little bit more about migrating to SAP S/4HANA. But obviously we will still be revolving with the lens of on the topic with the lens of integration. With the third edition of her book, which is called Migrating to SAP S/4HANA, that just came, maybe we can say, off the press, fresh off the press, because it just came a few months back. I cannot imagine a better time to talk to her. So Petra, welcome to the show. Would you like to add anything else to the introduction about yourself?
No, thank you, Michael, very much. I appreciate that opportunity. The book itself is a comprehensive view on all sorts of aspects, whether it is S/4HANA Cloud on-premise, also the different tools that you use. So giving the opportunity to have one focus, integrations, what I did in my previous job with SAP Activate, it's a real pleasure to talk about that subject and look around and see what are the questions you have and how can I help you.
So Petra, maybe I'd like to start with the conversation on a high level perspective. And I'm really excited to ask you this question because I remember when we discussed this, you were also taking part in one of your roles to design the SAP, to help with designing the SAP Activate methodology and its integration parts. When we have a look at your latest book, and I did the count actually, I counted 436 occurrences of the word integration. That sounds for me that integration is still important in the S/4HANA migrations. That's almost 500 times mentioning the same topic. Would you be able to maybe tell our viewers and listeners, how do you understand the role of SAP integration in those S/4HANA migrations? How to digest this maybe?
So let's start with defining what integration is, and from there, I think it's obvious how important that is. Uh, we started in SAP with a single component with R, and then A2, R2, and many of the processes ran within. And as soon as the business suite came, we very quickly, not just us, but the customer themselves had larger landscapes. I mean, we have customers that have 3-digit numbers of products that need to be connected. And that means at the end of the day, we're all not charity. And even if we are, the money stream of these businesses, the core element of these businesses run through various systems, meaning the value of a software implementation lies in a cross product implementation. That's very usual. I mean, it's very common, not only for bigger customers, but also for smallers. And that is the level of whether is the integration important? This is where the money lies. If you have a business process that runs through various systems, it is super important. And if you migrate any of those systems, you have to consider migrating the integration as well, because you want to keep or even increase the value. So there's a direct, very important connection between your value stream, how you want to improve this, and how you deal with integrations. This is why I think the migration topic and the integration topic are interlinked at the core. You can't just take one element out of a network and say, oh, no, I improved it. This is not how this works. You have to improve the whole business process. And one of the key aspects is integration. That's why and as one of the example, when you take an SAP Activate roadmap, you cannot take one work stream. It is an integral part. Integration is a key part, even for smaller customers. Have a look at it, which value goes through multiple systems. Have a look at it from a value stream and see the necessity as well as the actuality of your different parts of the integration. This is why I differentiate between an integration being the whole thing how you integrate, for example, an SAP S4 system with a SuccessFactors system to run hire to retire. That is a whole process, which we sometimes call integration. And sometimes we just call integration that, oh, yeah, yeah, you run it through an iFlow, you run it really through various interfaces, that the detailed technical element is called an integration. I would like to focus here on the bigger piece because you are, in most cases, experts of the slower, smaller piece. And I want to make that connection that the small piece is something we have to look at, but only because the big thing has the value.
Okay, so if I get you right, and this one of the things that I've discussed actually in one of the previous sessions with Gianluca, who is a CTO of Capgemini,
Hmm.
was composable ERPs.
Yes,
And I think this is something that you're trying to show, that in the world of composable ERPs, we cannot think about the migration of a single component, which might be a huge component, which might be the biggest and maybe the heart of many organizations, but the heart doesn't work without the leg, right? So,
correct. You have to see the whole body. Yes, you are changing one component, and but when you and you read through the book, you can count how often we use the word simplification list, because this is actually the thing. You have to investigate where your business processes are, and that simplification list for conversion, which is one of those options, you have to figure out which business process is affected, and really
mhm,
literally take that sentence, which business process is affected. When an integration doesn't work, you usually have an administrator who, in any kind of word, an admin, who then knows that there's an interface not working, whatever. But what actually happens for the business, your business doesn't run. Your business is stuck somewhere. So on that
yeah.
connection, this is why composable ERPs, you want to have modules, you want to be able to change the modules as quickly as possible. One of the things where we highly recommend not just convert, but also innovate, because you want to get into a modular state.
Mhm. And maybe let me drill down a little bit more on this innovation piece. So
Hmm.
in the recent months, and actually the SAP Sapphire is currently happening.
Yep.
There's a that we're SAP is talking a lot about business AI.
Hmm.
When we're discussing those topics just in general with enterprise architects, with integration architects, I usually like to say that AI is important, but where my phrase is, AI does not work without API.
Correct.
So how do you see this, maybe from the integration lens? How can the business AI, my our maybe our view on this is that it's not just the old integration that we need to move, but there's tons of new integrations that will have to be developed, because otherwise we will not be able to use business AI. Business AI cannot go work directly with a database, right? It has to go through some sort of API. And in order to fully utilize those business AI functionalities, capabilities, somehow we need to be able to provide new interfaces, new APIs. Is that also how you view that, or?
Slightly different, but in
Mhm,
that same direction, definitely. So first of all, I totally agree. AI is very much linked to integrations, and in two ways. And I want to
mhm,
emphasize these two ways. One of them is the old school integration that you're using, whether it is B2B, EDI, or all the integrations you're having so far. Uh, AI is automating and yeah, machine using the data you have in your system. And one of my most favorite customers that I really love to work with for years, because I did work in the defense industry. If you see my resume, you see popping up defense quite often. So one of them was the German defense, and the general leading the project, awesome guy. And he always said, for that whole implementation, garbage in, garbage out. That's a
mhm,
very, very important. Very early in my career, I learned military can only make decent decision when they have decent data. If you think about your government, wherever you are in your country, if you think about your government, they can only make right decisions when they have the right data at hand.
mhm,
So, and that was 2004 when I started working that. So now, even more important, AI, exactly the same thing is that how can AI now make a decision and give you a result when the data, the underlying data, is not clean, is not usable, is not unbiased, which means that is clean. You need a clean core. You need to set up your integrations to really have a clean core. So number one, your integration are the basis that you can use AI. Very, very important. The second thing is then how now, and that's the pure implementation of AI. We have a BTP hub for that. So we have models that you can use, and if you want to actually get some knowledge on that, we have a generative AI course of OpenSAP. Highly recommend it. I did this myself. Only takes a couple of hours, so it's really not that long. That really shows you generative AI, the principles, and also how we put this into the business processes. So, but also for partners, companies as well, it shows you that it's like a building block system. You're not building the AI modules themselves by scratch. You're using predefined systems. The large language model itself is not that something you build yourself. ChatGPT is something you use, and that's just one of them. There are more, obviously. So that is an integration that you want to build. Um, and that is the question on what kind of data you want to use. And that's a big advantage to work with SAP because we have all three things. We have the methodology to really build a large data pool with an ERP system that covers basically everything you do in the company. I mean, not all, but most of it. Secondly, and everybody working with SAP wise, we have a really wide range of APIs. This is not just hundreds, not just thousands. This is tens of thousands of interfaces we have in the European environment. So that's one of them. And in S4HANA Cloud, they even standardized from a methodology perspective. So I think the third one is one of the key USPs with SAP is we focused on integration for years to make that available for partner products, for customer products, so for own developments that you have, as well as a wide range of SAP portfolios to have the interfaces available, also to extend them in a way that you need them. So the last one is, I don't think a problem. When S4HANA Cloud was published in 2014, that was very clearly a lack what we had, but I think that gap was closed in many ways. So I don't think that the lack of interfaces or flexibility of interfaces is really a challenge in that subject. The challenge, from my perspective, will be that so far only 20% of the customers have a clean core. So the challenge would be to get the existing integrations into a clean state that the data can be used for an easy and very productive use for AI. That I think is the biggest challenge from a
Yeah.
integration perspective.
So thank you so much for highlighting this. I think it's when we're working with customers who are actually doing some of the biggest S4HANA implementations in the world, the number one problem with the integration is always the data.
Yes.
It's not anything else. It's just the data. When we're talking about any kind of consolidation, splits, it's the problems that are appearing in the integration that are usually an 80%. I think when we were trying to find it out, 80% is data related, not development related. So it's a brilliant perspective, yeah, and yeah, very very.
So in
I
addition,
like that you highlight this. Mhm.
yeah, and in addition, and this is exactly the thing, in addition is we have many initiatives on the business transformation platform, on the BTP, to basically say we have low code, no code activities. We want to make it as easy as possible to provide side by side decoupled extensions, which
Yeah.
basically then is the area where integration come into play. So yes, we're making it easier to create a side-by-side extension to use the BTP widely for everything, whether it is the product itself, whether it is a localization, whether it's a smaller extension, whatever, that thing is very versatile. From an integration perspective, that means it gets more and more important to learn how to simplify an integration, to standardize it, and to look at the value, to really, really look at the value and
Mhm.
innovate as much as possible. Because only when the data is clean and innovative, AI can use it properly.
Yeah. And actually this the topics that you've brought up right now, actually this brings me maybe to another question, because many of our listeners, they have legacy application landscapes, and they have tons of EDI B2B partners, a lot of old, let's say, integration styles of using the integrations. they face a lot of challenges with that, right? There's a lot of challenges with having the old, as you mentioned, maybe we should not call it garbage, right? But I don't want
No,
to use the word.
no,
I
no, no.
But when we think about that, this is something really really old, that probably can be replaced. But what are the challenges if we do not replace this? What are the challenges if we go to S4HANA,
Mhm.
but we don't think about this? The management says, no, no, let's just go with everything that we have. We don't want any changes. Is that a viable approach? Is that an approach that maybe is valid for some companies, or or what is your view on that?
That's my personal view. Okay, I'm pretty drastic in that because I'm an innovator. And when you look at my house, I really like to innovate because I enjoy the new stuff way more. And I see it gives my house cleanliness, as in not cleaning as in hygiene clean, but as in little devices, but they're really up to date on what they do. I like to have less with more functions that is easy
Mhm.
to maintain, and that is also up to date in terms of security and all the side aspects of it. Then something old for the yeah, I have old stuff. I have my grandfather's jewelry. That's old stuff. That has important, but that's more memory. Yeah, and I also refurbished a 1972 Beetle, not for the sake of using it as a car, but I just like old Beetles. Yeah, so that's a
Okay, so
difference.
you wouldn't like to race in that right now. You wouldn't like to use the brakes from the Beetle.
No. Well, I mean, it's fun to drive, but if I actually have to go here to Minneapolis, a 3-hour drive, I take my Tiguan. I like the
Yeah,
new technology when my safety depends on it. I
yeah.
take the new technology. When it's just fun going to the lake, then and it lived in California, so then it was really a fun ride was really the Beetle. So in technology, I see the same thing. Yeah, there is, and the Beetle, the 1972 Beetle was state of the art in 1972.
72. Yeah.
So I got this question also through when we had a book interview, and it made me think. So, and here is my honest answer. Why do you want to keep a business process at an old state from 1985, from 1992, from 1995, where the world changed drastically? At that time, yes, the internet was there. There was no AI. The mobile world just started it, so we had some phones, but the business that we did on the phone in 1998 or whatever, I was salesperson at the time, that was very limited. When I see what I do now, I do my whole tax return on my phone. So it's a different world, and it's a different security. It's a different privacy. Privacy laws changed quite drastically. Security laws changed quite drastically. So even legal aspects changed. And I got this question: can I convert an R3 system for a 6C to an S4HANA system? Cloud doesn't work, there's always new implementation, but on premise. That was the question. And I must say, theoretically, yes. Not in one step. I have to update, then get eventually to the ERP. I think it's enhancement pack 2 or 3. Don't know exactly which one it is. And then I can make it on 6, but I can upgrade them. And
Mhm.
then I can go to the one-step conversion and really convert this to an S4. I could do that. Lots of work, but for what sake? Your business needs to innovate. In the 90s, it took years for a company to grow into the billion area. Years, literally
Yeah.
decades to go from small to big. When you see how long it took Google to grow the way that it did, or Amazon, and then look at Wally Parker. Wally Parker grew within years, not even, from a small company. You have glasses, I have glasses. Wally Parker and Casper, online companies, they knew that if they innovate, if they are innovators, their business will grow exponentially. So, and that's the world that we're in. SAP just announced at Sapphire various AI features, and one of the things they basically said is by the end of the year, 80% of the repetitive tasks can be automated.
Mm.
What does that mean? That means why would you want to have a process that was designed in the 90s now running on a system from 2024, where you could run a process in 2024 with an automated system where your employees are doing more important stuff and generate way more value than doing repetitive things. So
Maybe you can support it in a different way. Maybe you can change it in a different way.
more customers, handle more customers at the same time,
Mm.
handle more revenue at the same time, be more productive in handling exceptions when it comes to warehouse management, detect more fraud when you are in the insurance business or when you are in public services, take care of your constituents in a way more intense way because the automatic questions can be done by an AI, by a chatbot. So there are many ways how you can diversify the reaction and your tasks and the company to tackle more with latest technology. This is why I say
Mm.
is that my beetle is fun, absolute fun. But when it comes to security and when it comes to getting me safe and quick from A to B, I take the Tiguan.
Yeah.
So distinguish between, is it possible? Yes. Is it advisable? And here's the question. That depends on what you do. Yeah, that
Yeah.
depends on your process. That depends on the systems you have. That depends on the time and the money you're willing to invent. It's a management decision. And the biggest chapter, the biggest part in that book is planning. Yeah. So execution, JB1 is an integration you can set up in a day. Well,
Mm.
that's a success factors S4 integration. But to plan it, to really see what do you want to do
Yeah.
with your personnel data in this process, that's the key thing. So spend a lot of time, and this is also the recommendation in terms of how not to fail. Spend as much time possible gathering the information, whether you need it, what you benefit from it, what you want to do with it, where's the business value in it. And I think that's where
Mm.
integrations really lack at the beginning. This is where we lacked a lot, like 10 or 15 years ago. They were seen as a technical object and not seen as a value generator. And I think that that's also the question with AI. What AI you use, what kind of integration you use, always see the business value behind it. What do you want to generate with it? Why?
Yeah.
Why do you want to integrate success factors when you don't need personnel data in S4? If you do,
Mm.
perfect integration, super easy to use. But if you don't need it, it's wasted time.
Yeah, maybe this will actually the business AI will accelerate thinking differently in about this. But Petra, there's also one. So the question that I wanted to ask was that I was asking was about those legacy integrations.
Yeah.
On one hand, you've mentioned how to think about this, how to plan this, how
Hmm.
to plan for the innovation. But one of the dimensions that we're trying to look at this is also the clean core.
Yeah.
So from the integration point of view, very often we look at in the past we used to look at this in a maybe in a slightly different way than we should be looking that we could be looking right now. So in the past, most of the enhancements to the integrations were happening on the ERP system. So the
Hmm.
integration platforms, which
Hmm.
right now is a part of the BTP,
Hmm.
SAP BTP, was mostly viewed as a connector.
Yes.
Right now, what we're seeing with this big wave of moving customers to the BTP integration suite from the SAP process orchestration, that some of the customers are already getting prepared, are already preparing for the clean core. So they say, no, we don't want to do enhancements on the ERP system because over there we need to have a clean core.
Yeah.
How do we do it otherwise? Oh, we not only have the BTP integration suite, but we have the whole BTP suite right now. So now the world of side-by-side extension is all of a sudden starting to open.
Yes.
Is this also something that SAP is looking at, is seeing that, instead of doing all of those IDOC user exits, IDOC enhancements on the backend system, we will be working more and more, as you mentioned, with the API hub
Yeah.
APIs, but all of the extensions will be coming more in the side-by-side matter on the BTP.
Yes. So, if you want a book recommendation, I mean, Kim Mattis wrote some really good books on that, and also any kind of extensibility book. Let me just check one of them. I have one old one that is from the Heidkötter. Exactly, that was the name I was looking for. Henning Heidkötter and Philip Herzig. That same Philip Herzig that you had on the keynote on
On
just
Sapphire.
Sapphire. Yeah, that's that
Mhm.
same Philip Herzig. Uh, that are the gods in the company on terms of that topic. So very quickly to keep it very short, because obviously that's a whole book, thick book, very big book. That's an old version of it, but I can recommend this as a complementary thing because that's exactly the answer to your question. As you can see, this is quite a volume. The fast answer on it. when you see the number of interfaces that S4HANA, no cloud, on-premise, really, no cloud as an application, so the S4HANA private edition as well, the on-premise, how many interfaces that thing provided, because it is a product that technically derived from R3, legally different product, but technically it is a subsequent product of it. Tens of thousands of different interfaces. And like you said, different methods of using it because SAP changed methods over the time we innovated that.
Yeah.
And then you see now, and this is exactly the thing, now you see S4HANA Cloud, public edition, and this is where you exactly see what you just said. You see a standardization, you see the BTP coming up, you see a standardized side by side, which means the recommendation instead of going to multiple systems and having multiple integrations, kinds of integrations, you have one hub and you work with the API hub. You work in a standardized way. And that's why I say this method had at the beginning the lack that not all interfaces were as covering business wise as we wished it would be, because S4HANA is very much covering everything. S4HANA Cloud had a gap in that. So yes, we are in the process of enabling that. Very much gone as in, and when I see what happened 10 years ago, um, I see that this is exactly happening with AI. We're standardizing the integration more and more. And we encourage the customer to question every single integration, whether it can be standardized as well. Because, and here's the advantage for standardization, is we update them. So we cannot call them, by the way, this is something I really like, not all rewording I really like, but there was the blacklist and the whitelist. So we have a go and we have a no-go list. Yeah, we have an allowed and not allowed list. I want to make that clear. And the allowed list is these standardized interfaces. So if you work with a B2B, yes, you can. You can work with an EDI. You have a supplier that has an EDI connection. It works. It's seamlessly. You know how to maintain it. The data runs clean. You have no problem. There's no need to change it. Yeah? But here's the thing. That thing will never be updated because we update the allow list. Yeah? And that is something where when we have new business objects, when we extend the business objects with new fields, you get it automatically available. So you are on the innovation path. And that, I think, for an integration is an important thing, which means that when we change the business process, when we innovate our business process now with AI, you can use your same design by extending the existing integration. You don't need to redesign it. Whereas when you are on EDI track and then we update the simplification, for example, so you are using the business partner as a user creditor in S4, that's not the future. The future is the business partner. So then you have to redesign it. That effort difference, that is the investment you do when you go from EDI to a integration, which is API hub, which is using the communication arrangements in a standard way. That is the
Perfect,
difference
perfect.
in effort.
Thank you so much. So by the way, if anything, maybe to a message to our viewers, if anything that Petra mentions today is interesting to you, you can definitely find additional information in the third edition of her book, which is called Migration to S4HANA. But maybe coming back from a different angle. So in the book that you're showing, you're putting a lot of advice, right? This is some of the great advice on how to migrate to S4HANA.
Yeah.
And maybe if I would use a metaphor, you're trying to show how to get to one of the good universities. Let's say I'm a student. You're trying to show me how to get to Harvard, maybe how to get to Cambridge, maybe to Oxford, to one of those really good universities. I'm thinking we have a lot of paths that we can go. I mean, why should I, let's say, if we just talk about the colors, different flavors of S4HANA, why should I go to Oxford? Why should I go to Harvard? Why should I go to Cambridge? What if we flip this around? What if we inverse? Could you tell me an advice? Like, for example, if you could you tell me an advice that I should definitely not do, because if I do it, I will definitely fail. So I'm thinking, right, of an advice like this. If you're a student, whichever university you go to, this is going to be fine. You're going to be fine. As long as you don't steal, lie, and cheat, you will be good. Do you have any sort of advice for migrating to S4HANA?
So let's start
it
with the
doesn't have to
student.
be as yeah,
Sorry.
it doesn't have to be the most perfect as for HANA implementation, but what are some of the advice that we will not fail for sure at least?
So as a student, I would actually let's start with that because that was my problem when I was picking a university, and it's always good to have like the top three things because they're really good guidance. You don't need to have the complete list.
Mm,
Just if you have the top three, you usually cover like 80% or something, and you're good in that. So I chose my university because I wanted to do chemistry, and I chose a university where many famous chemists were working, and where half
mm,
of the buildings in that university have a chemistry relation. So my chemistry degree is from Mainz, and then my physics degree is from Southampton, number 200 in the world or something. So I really looked at what is the strength, and here is the thing: is you follow your strength. As a student, I would say, don't work on your weaknesses, work on your strengths. You find passion in the things that you're good at and you like. You don't need to perfection the world that you don't like. Use it as a hobby. So yeah, that's why I do skiing in private. Not good in skiing. And I do process modeling and IT in professional because I think I'm good at it. So integration's kind of like the same thing. Is that what are they good for? What is their value? What is their strength? And this is something you need to work on. As in, the five golden rules on purpose have this. Where is the implementation strong? An implementation is strong when you have the right mindset for it. Cloud implementation, innovate early and fast. Uh, Value as in integration and extension, be value based. So, what are the three things? And I was thinking about it because that was one of the questions that I get quite often. What are the no goes?
mm,
No go number one is ignore innovation. The world is changing very, very fast. Look around you. Look at the companies that are coming. Looking at the not just us, but I mean, yes, our keynote was definitely fantastic. I loved it. But even if you look wider, I worked in Silicon Valley. Look across the aisle from the El Camino or the other companies, what they're doing, and you'll find the speed of innovation is picking up. So
yeah,
you need for your company to be agile. Don't underestimate the agility in your business processes that you need to survive the next phase of your company. Number two, planning. I know it's boring. I know it costs money. I know it takes time and patience on managements, but don't ignore and don't underestimate the value of planning. This is why in our book we have, whether it is Activate as a documentation or whether you use the book, but really read through the checklists. When you decide which scenario to go, this is not a day's activity. This is a project in itself. Yeah, to
mm,
investigate how your landscape looks like, where is the value in integration, in extensions, in what business model you use, where did you use what from ERP, and how is this then used in S4. So if you want to convert, really migrate, not only the not just have a new implementation, but really migrate the whole business, keeping some pieces as they are, spend time and money to investigate where are the things that you can keep and where are the things that you have to change. Integration, the same thing, is that a real integration is successful when everybody is not realizing that it is an integration. It's like
yeah,
cleaning a house. A true integration is when you don't see it, when it works
yeah,
seamlessly, and the
that's
UI is
true.
one, and you don't even know that
It's
you are on a different
frictionless.
system.
Yeah,
Frictionless. The end user has no idea. Yeah?
yeah,
So buying 360, this is something that I always thought catalog buying is that I don't want to know whether there I am in the catalog or not. I
mm,
don't want to know whether this is a BTP app or whether this is a scenario or whether this admin is interested. No, I just want to go in my portal on S4 and I say I need a laptop, and then it says here's your catalog for laptops, and then I order the laptop, and then it says, oh, my manager has to approve it. That's my thinking. I don't need to
mm,
know in which systems I am.
yeah,
So, and this should be the goal. So as soon as you make the technical integration to be a goal, you're wrong. Make the end user a goal. Yeah, garbage in, garbage out, which means that it needs to be intuitive for the end user. I've seen many, many implementations where the PowerPoint was the goal, the
mm,
list of integrations that were done, the testing result was fine, but nobody thought of the end user, meaning, and this is really comprehensive, make your end user the goal. The end user needs to have everything he needs, she needs, them needs,
okay,
whatever. Yeah, documentation, UI, help. if it doesn't work, procedures if one of the systems is down, make it comprehensive. Then
Yeah.
an integration is a beautiful thing, provides lots of value, and everybody's happy with it.
Okay, so if I get this right, if we would reverse this, so to fail an S4 HANA migration, you would say that your top three list would be: don't think about innovation, just
Yep.
bring the old crap, and then no one will want to do it, will want to work on this, will want to pay for this. So definitely we will not do this migration. Don't plan. Planning
Quick
is not
decisions.
important if you want to fail fast and
Hmm.
and fail miserably maybe. And also make the integration as your focus, instead of making the business processes, the value as the focus.
Yes.
Does
Yes.
that summarize well the
Correct.
three steps to fail for sure?
So I think that two roles that are in the integration environment are very much underestimated. One of them is the planner, and the other one is the change manager.
Mm.
It sounds really weird, but it is an experience that I have in many projects. Is when you build an integration, you build a business process that is technically very interesting and sometimes also a challenge. You focus very much on the technology, and you're super happy that everything runs. And by that time, the project very much forgets that the end user is lost at this time,
Mm.
and that you didn't prepare a group of people like your purchasing department to tell them how to use the new systems, or your bookkeepers to use the new systems in an intuitive way, so they're not like many of us sit in front of systems and think, oh my god, who designed that.
That's
Uh,
that's the sad story of not bringing everyone on board, right? I mean, we're also a product company. We see that also in our SAP API testing software, right? If we
yeah.
don't bring everyone, if not everyone is aligned, then they just won't use it.
Give feedback
So
not only on the technology, but you need two kinds of testing. You need the technical testing, but you also need acceptance testing. And I always say very early in the process, get your key users into the testing.
yeah,
That's one of the things. Key users are really key to the testing. They give you feedback on, is this thing usable? If you don't work with the procurement department on the procurement processes, you will not find out up to the end, Toyota principle. At the end, when everything is ready, they will tell you this is not usable. I cannot train anybody on using this. Whereas at the beginning, when you still have the chance to change the UI, sometimes it's just the UI, sometimes it's the help on the UI, sometimes the integration is missing key fields. Yeah, where you say you made the decision that certain fields are not part of the integration, and then your chief procurement officer in the company basically tell you this has no use. This is exactly that fields we use every day. If you leave that one out, that's like extra 3 hours of work every day,
yeah.
and you get very valuable feedback on the usability of your integration when you get the key users of the respective area in there very early. So testing is very comprehensive. That's why I recommend also the Activate as book, as well as the tool itself. Work with Calm as much as you can, or the solution manager, but definitely Activate, to make sure that this connection between change management and integration is right from the get-go in your project plan.
And Petra, you've mentioned another point, that there are some methodologies, like for example SAP Activate. What are some of the, let's say that we don't look at the SAP Pressbook
Mhm.
right now. What are some of the methodologies, or even parts of the methodologies? We don't need to talk about the
Yeah.
whole methodologies in general, that should be looked at by the people who are thinking about integration, who are working with integration. Are there any specific parts that you would recommend, of specific, let's say, activate methodologies, that you would recommend for either consultants or functional consultants, or even business users, so that they can think, okay, this is how we should guide the project. Let's think about innovation. Let's think about this. Let's think about. Is there anything from the SAP methodologies that you would recommend?
So there are two things that I like to recommend. Number one is when you have an integration and you need to work on your integration, you have to ask yourself, where do I get a list from? Where do I get my list from? Now,
Hmm.
which tools and which people, or what is the action to get a list of what are my integrations?
Yeah.
So,
Hmm.
Michael, when I give you, let's say you run a company, you do, but anyway, so you have now, you're talking to the procurement because you are implementing a new procurement tool,
Hmm.
and you want to know, okay, just give me a list of all the integrations I need.
Yeah.
Where do you get them from? And this is why in Activate and in other methodologies, there are other methodologies from partners on the market. This is the key question. Do you have now somebody sitting in the office and thinking of brightly, well, we have this tool and that tool and that tool that we need a connection? Or, and this is why I question the methodology that's do this, is what you need is a methodology that goes from business, from the CEO view to the CIO, CTO, to the actual LOB. That is the order company wise that you do. You go CEO, which means where's my business value? What do I do in the company? Then you go technology. What do I need to get this done? So you say in your case, business, you're doing LOB, you're doing your procurement. So you write down your procurement process. This is where I want to go. This is the innovation I want to see. Give me the, I have, let's give it a real example. I have suppliers, I have problems with suppliers because there's always a storm in Africa and I see there's always a delay in Africa. How can I avoid this? I need to be better. My net promoter score in Africa is going down the drain because there's always delay in delivery. Get this sorted. Here's your business value. Here's your business problem. Then you say, okay, this is a problem in procurement. So you need to look at the procurement process. Then the procurement process, then you say the systems, and then you have the integrations. So you go CEO, technology, LOB, and then you have your list. Whether it's Activate or not, if you don't have that list, if you go from bottom up, you lose your problem. You don't solve anything.
Yeah.
You're just busy. Yeah. And I always say when in a business, make sure that that you have a business purpose on anything you change. That's why don't forget your CEO. That
Yeah.
don't forget
I
your
think I
business
think
side.
I think Petra, one of the things you've actually answered is we have a question from Corina. How can we engage key users and get their buying? And I think this is exactly what you've described right now, right? So we
Yeah.
must come from the business value. It needs to be understood from the top of the organization, at least from the CIO level, and then we go to the lines of businesses. And this is where the key users would get involved also, one
Correct.
one from the technical perspective and the other hand from the value perspective.
And this also,
Um,
and I saw on a side note, there was a question, I just checked in it. There was a question, what are the key tools in terms of integration? And there is, there are tools, obviously, that for any kind of integration, whether it is the API hub itself. If you work with SAP, get familiar with the API hub. This is really, really important to be able to navigate it, to test on it, to test a testing environment, all these things on the API hub. But more importantly, as the expert in your area, and you all know that when you are an integration expert, you have your training, you make sure that from a testing and from an implement perspective, you have the courses you need. But think a little bit broader. Think about when you are migrating now. Yeah, how do you find out that your integration is affected? So think about when SAP changed the data model between R3 and S4, between ERP, the whole ERP suite, and S4. We changed the data models. We simplified stuff. We're not HANA, it's not on HANA anymore. This is now running with HANA. This is designed for HANA, which means the data models were changed. Everybody who's writing code knows, yeah, your business objects are changed. For integration, it's exactly the thing. Your fields changed. The whole business object was removed in some cases. So, which means you need to be familiar with everything that is around the simplification list. You find in the book a whole chapter on how to use it. You find it activate the actual list to it, some documentation in it, depending on what you want to do. It is the simplification tools and lists, the sum. These tools are, at least in a high level, very important if you migrate to S4HANA from an old system. Make yourself familiar with it. It doesn't need to be a whole day. Just reading high level what this thing does and what's the purpose of it will help you to understand why you need it. That's one of the tools. The other tool is SAP for me. The page is really called SAP for me, has a demo environment, and that is the process modeling. Signavio and we just bought it. I'm not really good with all the names. There are too many in Sapphire.
Linux.
Yeah, no. I'll come to that in a minute. But anyway, Signavio and the portfolio is in it, which means if you go to SAP for me and on the process modeling, and this is the thing where I say you have the CEO level, your problem. We have
Mm,
delays in delivery. The next thing is you need to now to connect the technical level, the API hub, with, and here's the LOB level, with your process modeling. Always model
with
your
the
process.
workload. Yes. Mhm.
Exactly. Always model your process. And that is SAP for me. All the process models we have that we provide, especially in the cloud environment, Most of them are also usable for on-premise. They will help you to really track your integrations with regards to the business process. Yeah, so this is also a side element what I think that helps for the efficiency very much if the integration is always seen in the context of the model of the business
No,
process.
no. Mhm.
Yeah, especially
I
then you
think
can change the model.
there's also a good question from that we're just discussing right now from Najendra. Usually up-to-date
Yeah.
integration inventory is not maintained. How do you view discovery phase of the integration importance during S/4HANA migration? Not everything needs to be migrated, in my view.
Hmm.
And I think if I can maybe if I can just say just a short answer before you pick it up, Petra. Najendra, Petra mentioned one of the ways to definitely fail this is not to plan this, not to
Correct.
look at this, just migrate
Absolutely.
everything, not to look at this. This is definitely the way to fail nicely, right? I don't know
Yeah.
if you
Get your plaster. You
yeah,
will run against the wall. You will get bloody noses. That is exactly the point, and I totally agree. I absolutely totally agree. Not everything needs to be migrated, and that is the point of where I say the planning is, and there was another question here is on where to find more about the planning. Is our methodology has a whole phase of it, so not just discover, the whole prepare as well. So take the discover, which is before the sale. So we need the discover phase, and in cloud, the discover phase is really also license dependent because you need to discover what kind of products you need to buy. So you need a discover phase from a buying perspective, but also then once you bought the licenses, because some of them are packages, and then you need to go one level deeper and now need to plan. So you need to discover phase to really make a plan on what you already know. And then the next step is explore, where you can even use trial systems and sandbox systems for those cases that you're not familiar with. So we have several chapters in the book. That's one of the sources. Obviously, as an author, I give you my book as number one. But just go to the as a high level starting point. I would say go to the Activate roadmaps and really check out for and check out two different roadmaps, and you see the difference. You see the difference in S4HANA on premise in this case, and S4HANA Cloud, three system landscape. Then you see that the phases are the same, the level of preparation is the same, but the activities are different because obviously the application is different. And one in the S4HANA on premise, you can filter for which the three of the options you want to use, conversion or whether you want a new implementation. So, but most of them, really the vast majority of planning tools is in there. One thing is
Mhm.
not in there, and I want to recommend that is one thing is we don't have with regards to AI because they're not updated yet, as I haven't seen them. They might be in it. They're updated every 2 weeks, so I'm not sure.
Oh,
I have to
that
ask
that
that.
might be something for the new release of the book.
Yes,
But
that's definitely for the new release. And that is the App House is offering workshops on your AI discovery, which means that that will be a workshop for your company that really discovers what use cases you have, where and how you want to use AI. So, and we have various colleagues, and one of the authors of our book, Frank Densborn, Densborn, Frank Densborn. Look at my profile and you see it. And he is also posting about that very much on LinkedIn. So, if you're interested in these App House workshops on AI, that I think, especially for AI planning, is a key part. Yeah, so
okay,
we have
perfect. So
our six
mhm.
authors. We are in six different areas. And
Yeah.
Frank from Palo Alto, he is very much in the planning of AI. And the other Frank in Germany, Frank Finkborner, he's very much in the planning of data migration. So if you follow him, Frank Finkborner, then you'll find all sorts of information and details on how to plan more the actual data migration. Martina Höft, she's an expert in Activate also, like me. So her expertise is planning, how planning is documented with regards to Activate. That's why this authoring team is actually, we know each other for years, for decades, to be honest. I know some of them for the whole 24 years I'm with SAP, but we come from different areas. We came together for the book. Um,
Yeah, yeah, and maybe Petra, just with respect of the time, maybe if we can leave a few more minutes for the just to see if we have some more questions. But there's
yes.
one more question that I would really like to ask you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, with the third edition of the book, I know that could you please share with us some of the latest editions on the third edition of the book,
Yeah.
because I know that there's a lot of tools got updated. So you've mentioned a lot of updates about the tools. I think also finally central business configuration has its own
Yes.
chapter instead of the paragraph. So you should be
There is.
happy about that.
Yes, definitely. Well, I mean,
and
now it really
and
takes off. Yes, but yeah,
and,
that's
and
a
there are also some methodology changes, but let's keep the important things first, right?
yes, exactly.
um
So let's.
let
The whole
Petra
list is
Petra
very
so
long.
Petra, so maybe if you tell us the important thing, and my
Mhm.
question would be, because you've published the book in 2024,
Yeah.
the really important question that probably the viewers and listeners would like to know: are the names of SAP components still valid today?
Oh, that's so funny. Honestly, I love this question. So, you know, I started my journey as a trainer, as an educator, and I wrote the SAP O1, and then I had to write the intro for that thing. So it's 3 day course on the whole of SAP, and I had no idea on how often we changed the name. And then in the morning, like 10 o'clock, I should have kept this email. Was an email from marketing. We'll never change the enjoy thing. And I wrote my whole chapter on enjoy transactions, and then in the afternoon, like 3 o'clock, came the email where now mysap.com, my SAP SCM, my SAP. I was like, really, honestly, now that my course is finished, we changed the names. Then we changed B2B like 3 times, 4 times. BI we changed, NetWeaver we changed. We're not NetWeaver, we're SAP NetWeaver. So yes, this is the funniest question in SAP, that never bank on the name for longer than a couple of years.
Yeah.
The product doesn't change, but the branding and the name, yeah. When you work with SAP, names is a different thing. It's branding, and sometimes they change it. I'm glad that they never changed the SAP S4. They made HANA then on it, but at least
Yeah.
the S4 stayed very successfully. So yeah, that comes with the territory that whenever there's a new publication, you change the name. Um, but more importantly, what are the 3 things you need to be aware of the new book? Why should I buy the new book? Basically, in terms of what's new. Number one, from my perspective, personally perspective, the whole strategy and planning department was updated to the latest and greatest on advice on how to address it. So we updated really SAP strategy and every element around it. So new tools that came out with it, new strategies on how to migrate and why to migrate, some side elements in it. From a personal perspective, I am in central business configuration. I'm a product manager in central business configuration. So obviously it was a joy and pleasure to write a whole chapter on that. Um, and that's S4HANA Cloud implementation, which is also way more important now, way more customers. It grew a bit. If you follow the revenue numbers, you know that our cloud is very strong. So that was obviously very important to focus on that implementation. And the next thing is the whole strategy. And you had the question, Michael, before, was that with BTP and integration, we changed throughout the whole book how, and this is why integration came up. You said the number, I forgot it, 200, 300 times.
436.
400 times,
Yeah.
436. So this was actually, so if you see where it was added and where you also count the word BTP,
Hmm.
big update because
Okay.
of our whole, this is why back to the strategy of our, we call the North Star architecture, is really the key architecture that all of our products follow at the moment as the strategy, because we all need one guiding star, just nice, the North Star. Um, is the BTP. Yeah, so we had to add, whenever it comes to integration, when it comes to extensibility, whenever it comes to UI design, all these different elements, is we focus on the latest and greatest North Star, which is the BTP. And that's why on Sapphire you see the same thing happening. Is yes, you can do other things as well. You can work with other tools as well. We can even work with other companies. But that's why we said for the book we have to create this comprehensive view on what is the next element from S4 that you need to
Yeah.
build a comprehensive business process, and that's the BTP. Yeah. So strategy, planning approach was updated. Now S/4HANA Cloud implementation was updated and the BTP. That's kind of the three things. And
Mm.
obviously, but that's a given. You always have to update your existing tools. That is a normal. Yeah. So whether it's the Zoom or whether it is the data migration cockpit or all these tools, it doesn't matter. They all underwent the normal upgrade and will for the next release as well.
Yeah. So I think you've also partially replied to Alex to another question. In your experience, what are some of the most overlooked benefits and elements of the S/4HANA migration when it comes to integration? I think this is what you've discussed right now, right? So we're talking about the BTP, we're talking about clean core, and we're talking about extensibility, innovation, and the ability to change things, right? So
Yes. So simplify things. And this is why I think that see the change has different aspects. And this is why I say from a motivation, our three goals to no go is ignore the end user. Now, that's why I said one of them is focus on the technology. So and I want to give you an example. Have you ever bought a car in Europe or thought about buying a car in Europe and went through the configurator?
no,
So
no.
just think about it. Do it for just for the sake of fun of it. Go to a German page in English, Mercedes, for example, or Volkswagen, or it doesn't matter. They all have it, and configure your car just out of fun.
Mm,
That thing is so it's fun to use, yes, but it's also easy to use.
mm,
So for the developers, that was a pain in the butt. That was
mm,
complex, a lot of complexity. A normal truck has 4,000 variations.
mm,
That's just a normal one. We're not talking about a fancy one. So you can imagine in Germany where everything is made to order, most of it for the cars at least, is how many variations you have, the color and the
mm.
frames and the wheels and the whatever, everything. So change means that the developer needs options, but the end user needs simplicity.
Yeah.
So when I talk about change, and I got this question from the book, and I want to add this question is, will my job change with the transition to S4? Yes. But it will not go away if like I mean I cannot promise any job that stays away, but in general, we always need integration experts. We always need people who focus on the technology of the integration. So that job will always stay. We will not have one system that runs everything. So yes, but the focus should really be the end user. So
Perfect.
what are the jobs that are usually underestimated? When I hear SAP, when I go on vacation and somebody hears SAP, he's always complaining about SAP, especially when I travel to and from the US, which I do a lot because I live there, because people didn't see the end user.
Yeah.
And the end user sees SAP from the view that we see cars. They don't see how the car was developed. They don't see the difficulties. They don't see the challenges. All they see is that the cup holder is in the wrong place.
Yeah. I think that's a great way actually to wrap up. If just maybe by having this thought, integration is not for the developers. Integration is not for the technical guys. Integration is for the end users, for the key users, for the people who will be using this integration. And yeah, let's as a developer, as an architect, I would say let's force ourselves more to think about the users of the integration, not about the integration technologies.
Okay.
And whether this applies to the BTP, to S/4HANA, it doesn't matter. I
Yes.
mean, wherever we apply this, it will be beneficial.
Yes. Very, very good. And now I think you understand why SAP build a lot of focus on integrations
Mm.
because a developer who sees more options, who can use more options more easily, will also use them, will be more flexible in providing more different kind of value for different customers. So our integration tools, ease of use, as in, but for a developer, it's a different change than for the end user who shouldn't see it at all.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Petra. So if you just for the viewers and again for the listeners, if you found the information shared by Petra today useful, then you definitely need to get her book, which is called Migrating to S/4HANA. It's available on SAP Press. If you've enjoyed the show and you're seeking more information about SAP APIs, just follow INT4 on LinkedIn. You can also follow Petra. And for us, for the next episode, please stay tuned. So again, thank you so much, Petra, for taking your time. It was a pleasure to have you, and maybe hopefully we will meet again when the new release of your book comes out.
Oh, absolutely. I can't
With your
thank you
thoughts.
enough. You made me think so very, very much for that. Thank you for the very interesting questions. You know how to find me on LinkedIn. If you have any other question, don't hesitate to contact me. It was fun. It was really fun. And I hope I helped at least in one or two aspects to think in a different direction. Thank you, Michael.
Definitely. Thank you so much. Thank you.